All right.
So, welcome everyone. We are going to wait a bit for folks that are still discovering that we went live. So let's talk about our weekend plans. Do we have any weekend plans, folks? Arjun, Ryan.
Ooh. So I just moved into the city of Chicago, and I've lived in the suburbs for a really long time, but now that I'm in the city, there's so much that's easily accessible via like train or bus. So maybe I'll find a new restaurant or bakery or something to explore with my girlfriend and have a good time.
Oh, that sounds romantic. I like that.
Yeah.
Take her for a nice dinner.
Exactly.
There needs to be no occasion, really.
Exactly. Exactly. Just gotta go have some fun. What
Yes.
about you, Sandra? What's new? You said you got some stuff in the mail. Are you getting more packages and stuff?
Yes, I'm changing my bed, believe it or not. So there's a huge package of, like, multiple packages actually, of a new bed coming. So I'm gonna probably work on putting it together this weekend. But also planning to chill, go for a sauna. I like going for a sauna.
Nice.
So things like that. Yeah. What about you, Ryan?
Uh, so, so I'll be moving soon to New York, and the movers are coming Tuesday. So this weekend's mainly like ensuring everything's packed properly and just getting ready for that.
Yeah, makes sense. So similar to me, actually. Alrighty, so I think we can slowly start. I'm just gonna make sure that we are live on different platforms. Yes, we are. Okay, awesome. Um, so in that case, let's resume another occasion for our lovely live streams of Maker Spotlight. Guys, thank you so much for joining. If you're new to Maker Spotlight, let me tell you what it is very shortly. Basically, what we want to achieve here is choose the coolest demos out there that happen to use Cohere API in any shape or form, and make a little space during Friday for folks to talk about it, to break it down, and to also tell you how they put it together so that you can replicate it or build something similar or get inspired. Yep, many reasons for why to showcase your work. If you have something that you think would be a good fit for this event, please make sure to let us know. Drop it on our community Discord. We will pick it up from there and assess it. We are also planning to give some cool rewards for folks that want to showcase their builds, including production credits from Cohere. So make sure to follow up with us if you want to share your work. And by the way, I'm Sandra. I'm community lead at Cohere, and I'm joined today by Arjun, our community champion. Hi, Arjun.
Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. I really enjoy building with Cohere tools. And actually, last year I won a hackathon using Cohere APIs with my project called Perfect Prompt. So I'm happy to help other people learn about how to build demos with Cohere APIs and also showcase the really cool ones that we found. So really excited to be here. Thanks for having me on, Sandra. And I'm excited to learn more about Ryan.
Wonderful. And that leads me to Ryan. Ryan is our star of the show today, and he's going to show us a really cool demo that he put together while he was changing his career stage, I guess, and organizing his life while he was doing that. Looking forward to hear that backstory, and looking forward for him to break it down for you and walk us through how to do something like this in your own time while you're trying to organize your life or not. Okay, let's hit it off. Ryan, do you want to
Yeah.
show us what you've got?
Okay. So yeah. Hey, I'm Ryan. Basically, uh, what I was doing was trying to figure out ways to streamline multiple different facets of my life, right? And I found like the easiest thing to like uh, attempt to fix right off the bat was my desktop because God knows I don't enjoy putting things into folders myself manually. And so basically, as I was roaming different endpoints and things I could use, I came across the Classify endpoint. And so basically, that's what I'll be showing, how I ended up using the Classify endpoint to organize my folders, and how you could too. So I'll start it off with a demo. I did everything, remade it messy, and so basically kind of show how it works. And I'm using, this is a launcher called ScriptKit to launch any script, JavaScript script or TypeScript that you've written. So I've written the script, and then basically I use this to launch it. And then, so I'm going to go to the one which is for this, which is organized folder. And then I can go ahead and choose the folder. This will be desktop. And then it will go through, and then bam. So basically, my folder was organized, and I didn't have to do anything, right? But so then now yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I think we are seeing just your slides right now. We don't see. Yeah, so let's fix that fun, and you're perfect to go.
Sure. Okay, so I'll share this screen. Basically, I have to remake it messy again now. So let me do that. I'm just gonna bring everything out. Okay, so yeah, in practice you would never do this, but for demo purposes. Okay, let me get rid of that. Okay, so basically, this is the launcher I was talking about, ScriptKit. Basically, and allows you from like command prompt kind of interface to launch any script you've written in the past. And so what I'm going to do here is select the one I have for organizing my folder. As I press on it, I can select the folder I want to organize. Right now it's the desktop, so I'm going to select desktop, and then it'll go through, and then bam, everything's organized. And it was seamless, didn't really have to do anything. And so basically, what I'll essentially try to explain is how everything works. I see someone said never heard of ScriptKit. Yeah, if you like enjoy writing in JavaScript, TypeScript, and you want to use Node more often, I think it's a great tool to just launch anything you've written right from anywhere. Actually, I could pull it up here as well, so it's pretty easy to launch. So the first thing you'll need to have in order to do something like this is the training data. Basically, how it classifies everything is based off of what you've labeled and kind of what it correlates to. So if you have an idea of what kind of folders you'll need, basically come up with some names and file extensions that would fit into that folder's name, that label, and then that's what you'll feed into the API request. Something that you could do to streamline this process is actually just use Cohere's generate to generate this training data for you, or you could go ahead and do it manually. I didn't want to do it manually, so I ended up using the generate, and then it generated the JSON for me. And so after you have the JSON, you'll be able to use it in your API call. But something you have to do before you go ahead and call is a little bit of a setup, because there's a limit of 96, I think it is, inputs at once, right? So for the request, you can only you give it 96 inputs at once. So right here, this line reads the directory that you've given it. And so if that directory has more than 96 files, so file names, you'll have to kind of batch the requests. And so how you do that is you create an array that has arrays inside of it of 96, of length of 96 each. And of course, if it's less than 96, there will only be one array of whatever that length is. And then so once you have that, you'll have your input arrays, and then you're ready to go ahead and fetch and classify. So what you'll do essentially is get your API key, right? And then I use the promise all basically so that it sends all of the requests at once. So all of the arrays inside of that the main array will get sent to the API. Will fetch for the classifications to the API at once. That way, once they all come back, each of them will be going through the classification, so putting them into or creating new directories as needed. And so this is essentially what this is doing. And then this truncate end solution here, basically, if you've given it a input that's too long in length, it'll end up shortening it just so it could fit. And then you'll insert your API key in the request here, so in authorization. And then so basically, this will give you back a classification object from Cohere, which has different fields, but essentially you could see them here. So the classification object that'll come back will have input, a prediction, a confidence level, and labels. And so I renamed input here as file name simply because that's the application we're using it for here. But basically, once they come back, what I do here, the file name that replace all dash, essentially this is just filtering things. So let's say on your desktop, you've already used the classification endpoint before. You might already have folders on your desktop, right? And so if a file is coming back and it has the same name as the folder, then it's probably just the folder that you read, right? It probably just sent in the directory and got back classification with the directory. We don't really need that because that's just where the files are going to go into. So that's just filtering that out. And then here it's just saying that, okay, if the confidence level is not greater than 50%, put it in the unclassified folder. That way I can go and see in the unclassified folder which things didn't get classified properly. And then so for everything else that's greater than or equal to a 50% confidence level, it'll go ahead and make a directory or put it inside of the directory that the file name came from, that I got back as a classification from it. And so basically that's kind of how it works, right? And I'll take any questions if you have any, but I think it's pretty straightforward, right? So first thing is you create your batches of inputs. Then you send your inputs, right, as a promise.all so that all the inputs get sent at once. And once each input comes back, you put it through the classification function, which will filter things through. But you could tailor this to however you like, and then it'll classify it for you. Sandra, I'll take any questions.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. We're still taking it all in.
That was a really efficient presentation, Ryan. I really liked it. Really great. And your project's really neat.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I have a load of questions.
Yes,
so if you're ready, I'll start firing.
Oh, folks, by the way, if you have questions yourselves, please let us know wherever you're tuning in from, and we will make sure to ask your question. I see one question already on LinkedIn, so we'll make sure to cue that in.
Yeah, let's start with that one first. It's a great one. So OJ on LinkedIn asks, does it only work with JavaScript? It looks like that the program you've written is written in JavaScript, but is it that the only way that it can be run?
No, you can write it in any language and it'll work, essentially. The JavaScript, basically I use ScriptKit, right? So that only uses JavaScript, but if you could run this from the command line as well. So you could write it in Python, whatever you want.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of the APIs can be accessed using a Python library or any other library you can use to make these types of requests. It looks like that you, Ryan, chose to wrote your portfolio application in JavaScript. Are you a JavaScript developer, or is that the language you're most familiar with, or were you trying to learn something new on this project?
For this, the whole premise was to not learn anything new.
Sure.
So I just went with something I'm familiar with, right? And yeah, my portfolio is in TypeScript as well. So obviously I'm familiar with it, so that's what I use.
Nice. I see a lot of people using the Cohere APIs kind of pick up Python or Streamlit to kind of throw together a quick web application. So it's really nice to be able to showcase somebody who might be coming from more of a software engineering style background, take a crack at using the Cohere APIs to build a sort of application there. So that's super neat. Like I said, I have a bunch of questions because I think this project's really neat. It's super fast and it solves a problem that everybody has. Like my desktop is absolutely disgusting. I save everything there, and sometimes I don't even have the folders that I need. So let's start there. So it sounds like, from what I can tell, the way that your classifier works is that you have folders that are related to your categories that you want to organize within, and then your classifier kind of just figures out what files should go into what folders. Is that an accurate description of how it's working under the hood?
Yes, but you don't need to have those folders created on your desktop.
Really?
So
could you explain that a little more?
Yeah. So basically, how it knows what folders to send back to you so the folder in and of itself, Cohere doesn't know what the folder is, right? Essentially, it just gives you a classification back, and what that classification has is its prediction of where it should go underneath what label it should have, right? So in the training data, you'll give it a sample file name with the extension and what label you would think that type of file should go to, right? And then you'll have a series of these, and then basically now with each request, I guess I failed to show that, but let me show that real quick.
Sure.
Essentially here, right here with the request, you send in the inputs, which is the input array, but you also send in your examples each time right here. And then so basically it'll use those examples and then the labels that are present in those examples to guide its classification. And so for each file name that you send it, it'll look at all the labels that are present inside of your examples and then choose from one of those to assign it to it. And so with that, it'll also give you the confidence level, and you could choose what kind of confidence level you want to keep or reject.
Interesting. So if someone were to like pull this code down and try to rerun it themselves, they might not need to have a really strong grasp of like how to create directories or anything like that. They really just need to create that examples JSON with the folders that they would want, the labels, and the files that they have examples of. And you can just create whatever like directory config you want based on whatever you're passing in those examples there. So it's very dynamic. It's not like you pre-trained your classifier and you're just spitting out the pre-trained labels. It's flexible to the examples that are being passed in.
Yeah, so if I wanted a new folder to be part of like what it can give me back, I wouldn't have to touch the code at all. I would just, in the examples, I would just have to add a few examples. I think the minimum is 2 per label. I would have to add two examples for that specific label, and then it would get understand.
So that's actually a little more interesting, because I thought you had pre-trained a classifier, but this is a little more clever. So you're leveraging the Cohere Classify's endpoints ability to do this sort of like untrained classification or zero-shot classification in order to figure out what folder should be created. And it sounds like those folders don't need to be there in the first place either. You just create the examples, and your app creates the folders for you and organizes it. That's really handy.
Yep.
One other thing that I was very interested in understanding was that you had mentioned that it was possible to use the generate endpoint to kind of get around creating this examples file. And you said you ended up kind of doing that. Could you explain a little more what your process was there and what your motivation was there?
Right. So I can actually, I've been playing around. I don't know if it'll work right now, but so if I go into ScriptKit, I also have another, I think it's Cohere Chat. So essentially, I just created this thing where whatever I write in here will send a request to Cohere's generate model, and then so we could just send it whatever, and then it'll go to Cohere, and then see that was the answer.
Wait a second. We have a 2-for-1 on our hands here, Sandra. 2 web apps
But
in
basically,
one.
what you would ask it is to give it. So the endpoint has specific criteria of how the examples have to look like, right? It's an array with, I think it's an example or a label. I could go actually to it. So my full examples are right here. So yeah, so it's an array with text, and then this is would be your file name example, and then a label, and then what in that label would be the folder, right? And so you would give it like the structure, the format. It doesn't actually have to have anything in there, but you would give it to the generate endpoint. You would tell it that this is the type of format I want. Give me elaborate on it or something like that, and it'll give you more, because you need essentially 2 per label. So you could give it 1, and then it'll give from that maybe give you a second one. But because I wanted it to be a little more precise, that's why I ended up using generate, because then I don't have to think about creating all of these, right?
Very cool. And what's interesting here is that you get that structured format as well. So sorry, Sandra, I totally cut you off. Go ahead.
Please. No, I have a bunch of questions. So have you used it for a while? Like, have you stress tested it on your everyday needs and, getting your desktop messy again and stuff? How does it perform right now?
Yeah, so it works. The only thing that sometimes is finicky is when you download file. So I use it on my downloads folder as well, and then sometimes downloads come back and the names are just not very descriptive. So if it's just a number, for example, it'll end up in my unclassified folder, right? And then from there, I'll have to deal with it. And otherwise, there's never like, I know sometimes you could get a bad response back because you send too many requests at once. That's never happened because everything's batched, and it's not like I'm going crazy with it. Even when I try to do repeatedly on the same folder, it always works. I haven't had any problems with that.
Sick. We have a bunch of questions from people watching, actually. So I'm going to start with Ricardo. Ricardo is asking if you could elaborate on how do you calculate the confidence levels for classifications?
Yeah, so the confidence level is, I'm not the one calculating it. It's actually it's the response. It comes back with the confidence level response, and what it's basing itself off of is it'll look at. So if you look here, each label, I have at least. I think I personally did 5 examples per label, and then it'll look at, okay, this is what he had associated with that label. Now, how close is this new file name that I got? But it'll only see it as an input. How close is this input to being similar to one of these examples for that label? And then it'll give me the confidence level for that. And then you could deal with it accordingly. If you want things to be a higher confidence level before you organize something, then you could write that in. If you want it to be a lower, like whatever it gives you, you use it, then you could write that in as well.
Sweet, thank you. Ricardo, let us know if you have follow-up questions. Happy to tackle those as well while we have Ryan here. And the next one comes from Austin. Austin is asking whether it's possible to move the messy files into the existing folder and then automatically use the files already in those existing folders as training data. Have you thought of that?
Sorry, what's the question?
Okay, so yeah, Arjun, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the idea is just like if you don't want to create the examples file by hand, and instead you want to use like an existing directory file structure that has unorganized files there, is that something you've considered adding to your program to look for as well, in addition to the examples file?
So he's asking if he already has a folder with files in there, and then he wants to use that folder and those files as the training data, as in like those are already classified. Use that. You could definitely use that. I just haven't written that. It'd be very simple to write that code though. basically you would just have to you would just read that directory, get all the file names, and then put them as text, and then give it the label of as the directory name, and then you would have all of those files as training data for that label.
Sweet. Austin, thank you so much for chiming in. Folks, if you have more questions, please let us know. Meanwhile, I want to know if you're going to keep using it and what's next for it. Are you going to keep it as is? Is it perfectly productive enough for you right now, or are you planning to add some stuff on top of it in the future?
For my purposes, I don't really need anything else. Honestly, if anything, I might dabble and do what he had just suggested. Whereas if I already have a folder with training data in it that I have validated myself, then that way so that this list keeps getting longer and more precise. If anything, that's what I would do. But otherwise, I think I would leave it as is.
Makes sense. And what about folks who want to build something similar? Any plans for dropping it into a repository that we can share with the world?
repo.
Oh, well, so this one, because it's pretty, if I go to it, it's like the commands in it are pretty integrated with ScriptKit, because like just like I run everything from the command from that interface. But I do have, hold on, I think I have, what is it? Yeah, so I have another one where it's for organizing your mail, so your inbox. And so that one's completely unrelated with ScriptKit, so everything is just standalone code, and that's on GitHub as well. If you wanted to base anything on it, that one's probably better.
We'd love to, if it's possible.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I think we lost Ryan there for a second. Let's try to resume his video. Oh, probably some Wi-Fi issue. Meanwhile, I want to resurface your comment, Arjun, about scripted. Oh my god, this is a mouthful. I've never seen it before as well. It looks really sleek and like something that would help with the development. So definitely gonna check it out.
Ryan's back.
Nice. Hey there.
Welcome back, Ryan.
Warming up.
But yeah, I feel like I haven't seen like an equivalent Python utility to run scripts like that really nicely. I'm always stuck writing really long names of my scripts and the file paths and all that stuff. So maybe I'll dig around and see if there's something like that for Python.
Nice. Oh, I'm not sure if Ryan is going to recover from this network connection failure. But in case he doesn't, and you have more questions, we can always drop responses in the chat. Oh, there he is.
Perfect.
Hi.
I think I lost
Hi again, Ryan.
Yes, I think your network let you down there for a minute or so. Glad you're back. We wanted to ask you about scripted. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Oh, and he's gone again. I thought that he's thinking there for a little bit, and he just froze thinking. But that would be a long pause for thinking, I guess. Okay.
I think it'd be really. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it'd be really interesting to think of some potential extensions for this project. Like, I think that, if Ryan wanted to incorporate something like the embedding endpoint, maybe he could embed some of the abstracts, or not the abstracts, the JSON files or the text files or the documents that have really weird names, and try to use the embeddings directly of the text of the content of the files in order to map them to the classifications, or try to auto-generate better file names by looking at the content of the text files and then using that in order to classify.
Man, that sounds really good. I love the idea of adding embeddings to the mix, and also to try to make it name the stuff for you. It's a lot of like these like tiny little tasks that we need to perform, our brains need to perform. That would be like really sweet to offload to an app like this. Ryan, are you back with us? Maybe.
There we go.
We have you. I'm not sure if we have your voice, by the way. Say something.
Hello?
Oh,
Yep.
yes.
We're good.
You're back. Okay, so Arjun has a suggestion of how you can still keep working on the app itself. Arjun, please spill the beans.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's always fun to incorporate additional like Cohere APIs to different aspects of your application to make it easier to use. I think that one thing that would be interesting here is to embed documents that are coming in that have poor file names, and try to use those embeddings directly for the classification. So you can look at the content of the file and be like, oh, is this a financial document or is this something else? Or you could try to look at the content of the file and generate a file name, then rename the files, and then classify on top of that. That way, not only are you taking care of the files that are uncategorized or poorly named, you can rename them and automate that process too. So it's like a little more handy, and you're saving a little bit more time. I think that would be super neat. I could finally go through all of my downloads and just like clean that up.
Yeah, and you could even because if you did that for every file, there might be some overhead. But like since like things that are below a certain confidence level, they'll go into the unclassified, and then you can have like everything in there. You read inside of the file and then classify it.
Exactly.
That way, only the files that need it get read. So yeah, it would work. That actually that sounds good. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice. I'm
Yeah,
glad we established that something can be added here. Well, Ryan, if I were you, I would just work on making sure that this can be shared with the world, because many people have a very messy desktop, myself included, and we would need some help. The inbox stuff sounds very interesting too. So if you want to put it in a repo, we're more than happy to share that with folks out there as well.
Absolutely.
Both.
And you need a
are-
name.
Both,
You need a
both,
name.
both are public already. So this is the mail one, and then
Perfect.
We gotta drop chat.
And then okay, and
Get you all the GitHub stars.
That you deserve.
That's the file organizer.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm dropping it on LinkedIn. Oh dear. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Viewers, if you have a messy desktop, you should be starring Ryan's repo right now. Be an insta-click, because this solves that problem like that.
I think we can wrap up. I don't see any more questions from the folks. Ryan, it's been super fun to have you here. And thank you so much for bringing your brilliant brain and help us see that there's light in the tunnel for our messy, messy digital lives. Thanks so much for coming. And folks, again, if you want to show us something, if you're like Ryan and you like to get busy after work or during your work, then come let us know. We're more than happy to take a look at your project. Always happy to look at awesome projects with LLMs. And so we can maybe meet again with you here. Other than that, thanks so much, everybody. I wish you a lovely, lovely weekend. very well deserved, hopefully. And we'll see each other next Thursday on our next Maker Spotlight. We're gonna take a look at actually Iredis demo of controlling NPCs with commands. I don't know how he put it together, but let's we're gonna find out on Thursday. So we'll see you guys there. Thanks, Arjun, for joining me. It was super nice having you today.
Always happy to be here, Sandra, and great hearing about your project, Ryan, as well.
Yeah, and folks, if you have more questions, as I mentioned, you can. I see that on LinkedIn there is still discussion, so you can drop your questions there, and Ryan will comment. Hopefully, will not let it just
I'll be there.
unanswered. Yes, he's gonna be there. He's gonna be there for you. So have a lovely rest of the day or night, and I'll see you on the next live. Take care.
Sounds great. Bye, everybody.
Bye.